You're listening to Novice to Nomad, the podcast that takes you from dreaming about travel to making it a reality. I'm Chloe Lander, founder of One Love Travel Club. Each week, we bring you heartfelt stories and expert advice to help you navigate the world with confidence. So pack your bags and get ready for an adventure. Your journey starts here. Excited to be joined by Miss Alicia Sutton. She is a previous traveler and she recently ventured with us to Thailand. So thank you so much for joining me on here today. I do want to mention that Alicia also has a podcast, the 50 Now What podcast, and that is why you were one of my first calls. I was like, you have to help me figure this out. You have to be on here. So I appreciate you taking the time out and helping me get everything sorted. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And first of all, it is an honor to be on your maiden voyage. So you never forget your first anything. So I feel like I'm marking the mark. I got to set the bar. So
I love it. No,
I'm
it'll be
glad to
great.
be here. And of course, you were such a joy on your travel. Your personality is just so warm, and I couldn't turn it down. Of course, I'm going to be here.
Thank you so much. So, okay, I want to dive right in.
Let's get it.
So the first thing I want to cover is just a little bit more about you when it comes to travel. I want to hear a little bit about your background. This podcast is called Novice to Nomad. So I'm really looking to reach people who have this deep desire to travel, but maybe they feel like they don't have the experience or that there's something holding them back.
Yeah.
So I really want to know, what does your past travel experience look like prior to coming on a trip with us?
Prior to that. Well, you know what? It was my background with travel was kind of sporadic. I was very fortunate that I had parents who liked to travel. My mom specifically loved to travel. So early
Mhm.
on, I had a passport when I was like 6 or 7.
Mhm.
And then, you grow up and I went to places with her and I had those memories of a small child being in these strange places that, I was at home one day and I wake up, I'm on a plane, and the next day I'm in this whole new place. And so
I
I
love
had that
that.
I had that spark, and that's
Yeah.
why I think it's so important for parents to get their kids out of their norm. And so I always had that spark, I would, wake up and I'm like, I'm on some strange island. I didn't know where it was. Oh, we're in Jamaica. Or um,
Oh.
when after I was a little girl and we were in the Middle East, I'm like, where am I? And I find out later, oh, we're in Iran. And it was like, wow. So I had those
Amazing.
early experiences, and then I spent summers away. Like I would spend summers in Alabama where I had family, and kind of knowing
Mhm.
those types of things and those other smaller trips. So I had that background there. And then of course you grow up and life is happening. You get your
Mhm.
job and you realize that those trips were actually kind of luxuries that, you were probably taking for granted. And so there's this long space where I'm in school, I'm working, life is happening, responsibilities are happening. And of course, my favorite travel buddy was my mom. And then, she passed away. And so I think what came to me was like, how do I want to continue to have these experiences? Do I want to, I broke up with my boyfriend, or I had met people who didn't necessarily like to travel or didn't want to go the places that I wanted to go,
Mhm.
and not necessarily have. And that happens a lot too. Sometimes the people that you're around or your surrounding environment doesn't necessarily support, um, you know, that sense of adventure. People are like,
Yeah.
why you always going somewhere? Why you always want to go somewhere? Things like that. It
Yeah.
happens. It's just life.
Yeah.
And so I got to this, I guess you can call it like this precipice in my life where it was like, are you gonna wait to go with someone, or are you
Mhm.
just gonna gather up the courage to just go on your own
Yeah.
and see what that's like?
Yeah, I'm actually glad that you touched on that because a lot of our travelers, that's one thing that I find that they have in common. Um, I've been trying to put a name to it, and what I've called it is the dark horse.
Mm,
Usually, when you think of the term black sheep, that's someone that they're different from their environment, but it's like in a
mhm,
negative way. But the dark horse, that's when you're different because of your notoriety, right? Because
yeah,
maybe you have different desires, maybe you found success a little bit earlier,
Yeah,
or you found a different level of success. So now you're in this situation where the people that you grew up with or the people that you're normally surrounded with, they don't really have the same desires that you do. And, when I
exactly.
talk to our travelers, that's something that I hear so often. So
Yeah,
that's kind of the term that I sort of found for it, is like, you guys are kind of like
I
the
love
dark
it.
horse, you know?
I like it.
um,
I like it.
and I love when you guys are able to, come on trips and like link up and see that there are other people out there. They just aren't in your immediate environment, but yeah, they definitely
Exactly.
exist.
Exactly.
So thank you for sharing that. What things would you say initially, what fears do you feel you may have had prior to our travel experience together?
I think it was, um, again, I think it was just for me. I think as I gotten
Mhm.
older, when I was younger, my fears were just actually being able to go and do it and have the have the money and the resources to be able. Am I going to have a good time with limited resources? And
Yeah.
then as I got older, and of course now I came to your trip post COVID, it was that whole kind of like, okay, uh, my health and well being started to become. Uh, in the forefront where it wasn't before. I just was kind of like, I'm just gonna go and I'm just gonna, maybe I'll find friends there or whatever and whatnot. But that concerned me. I think it was an age thing.
Yeah.
I'll admit it. I think I'm just like, if I break my hip, if I go down, what's gonna
Oh my
happen?
god.
But I'm serious. But I got over
Yeah.
it. Why? And I was like, you know what? I don't like to. I don't want to live in a place of fear. I just didn't want to uh, we'd been in shutdown for a long time. We'd been in a place where it just felt like I couldn't do anything, and I just didn't. I wanted to not be scared of what might happen to me because of something that I wanted to do or an experience that I wanted to have. And so I think
Yes.
that was just one of my fears there
Y-
was my health and
Okay,
well being.
okay, what would you say though motivated you? Are you able to like pinpoint like what it was that made you say, "I'm gonna do it,"
I can.
you know?
I can. I
Yeah.
Before I came on to your trip, I was
Mhm.
I'd worked for many years on the same job for 22 years, and I had an
Mhm.
opportunity to retire. And I think it was wanting to and I also had a, how do I say it? Almost like a soulful evolution. I'd been in a place
Mhm.
where I wanted to be more open to a life of ease, a life of gratitude. I'd started meditating more. I'd started
Mhm.
seeing my life in a very different place. And so it was a
Mhm.
very slow evolution into who I was becoming at that time and in that
Mhm.
phase of my life. And so when I started allowing myself to be open to a different level of growth, the
Mhm.
fears that I was having started to seem irrelevant to me. And so the
Mhm.
pivotal moment was when I decided that I was going to leave this job that I'd been doing for several years. It had was all
Mhm.
encompassing in my life. That's what I thought I was always going to do, and also I was turning 50,
Mhm.
and life was starting to have a very different type of meaning for me. And
Yeah.
a part of that was I was feeling drawn to be in and be in different places in the world. When I say in the world, on the planet, in
Mhm.
order uh, just to just feel those things and allow myself to be in a different place and open to what might come when I got there. And so it was just it was several little moments, but the pivotal one was making a decision to leave another life behind. I always feel like I've had
Yeah.
several lives within this one, and there's always this precipice or this place where you get to where you're going to have to do it and will set a trajectory for your life. And that's what did it for me. It was like, you're turning 50, you're leaving a different life behind, and something is moving you to do something else. And so I just did it. I said, you know what? I'm going to plan some trips, and
Mhm.
I was very intentional with when I came to your trip because I wanted to travel with a group of women. I wanted to travel with women of color. I wanted to
Mhm.
have that experience there, and something was kind of drawing me to it. I wish I had more specifically what was that point, but I don't think that things
Yeah.
happen. I don't think things happen by accident. I think that something
Yeah.
draws you to something for something, and so and I actually had planned to be on a different trip that you had planned,
Mm.
and
Oh,
something happened
yeah,
with
you
that, and
did.
I did, and
Yeah.
I couldn't go. I was like, what's happening here? What's all of a sudden things were just happening. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to make this trip. And you were so accommodating with, well, we'll just put that towards something else. And that's the one I picked. I said, well,
Mhm.
we'll just go to this one. And so
It was the
in
perfect
life,
fit,
there's
though. That group.
it was the
Yeah.
perfect fit. It was the perfect fit.
Yeah, each
It was
time.
the absolute
Yeah.
perfect fit. Each time. So
Mm.
in terms of fear, it was initially just for me being solo, and then the turn was life is short. You're leaving a life behind. You've made a decision, a conscious decision to do it. You're 50 years old. What's left with you? You're single. I don't have any children. And, I didn't see a marriage on the horizon. All these other things that you kind of live your life thinking that you're going to be living it with someone or a person. You see
Mhm.
yourself kind of coupled into these things. And then
Mhm.
suddenly they're not those things. And you're left
Mm.
to have to question what your life purpose is now and what it is you're here
Mhm.
to
What does that
experience.
look
What
like?
is your soul here to do?
Yeah.
What does that look like for you? And it was looking
Yeah.
very
That's
different for me.
relatable. So let's talk about the trip. Let's talk about Thailand.
Yes.
Okay, I know my favorite part of the trip, and I'm gonna be honest with you. It was the first day. That was my favorite part of that trip. Was day one, that
Really?
first night. Do you remember
The
in
night when we went to
detail?
dinner.
Just
When we went to
yeah.
dinner.
Could you
Yeah.
explain? I don't want to tell it from my perspective, but can you
Okay.
explain day one? You land in Thailand. Go.
Day one.
what what was
I'm
that
in
like?
Thailand. I sensory overload because I'm like, "Oh, wow," I
Yeah.
wanna see everything, do everything. And even through my exhaustion, I was still like, "I'm tired,
Yeah.
but I still wanna go." It's something that you get re-energized when you get there, or when you get any place and when
Mm,
you land, but you get there and I'm totally re-energized, and,
yeah.
I felt very comfortable when I got there. It was strange,
Okay.
sometimes you get to a place and you feel like you need to kinda acclimate. It was like, no,
Mhm.
and I think a large part of that is because it was organized. I knew where I needed to go to get into my
Yeah.
ride, to get to my hotel. All that was taken
Yeah.
care of. And the big thing for me when it comes to travel is I can pretty much get through anything if I have a nice place to sleep. And so when I get there, I get in my car, the car's ready, I'm there, and I walk through this hotel and I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good.
Mhm.
It was like,
Yeah.
I didn't feel worried. I was just like, "Oh, this is gonna be really good." And just going through that hotel, setting everything up, it was so smooth. And that meant everything. When things go smoothly from the time I leave the airport and going into a place where I can rest my head, take a nice shower, and get ready for the evening, I'm great. And, I remember when we're meeting down in the lobby, and I start seeing these ladies come down. I'm like, okay, they must be with me because everybody looks so beautiful. I'm
Mm.
like, where's all these people from? And it was just this instant, and I saw you, and it was just this instant, like, oh, these are just like felt like people who I already knew,
Yeah. These
and
are my girls.
I said,
Yeah.
"What's up? How you doing?"
Yeah.
And it was just so the energy started right there. It was like right there
Yeah.
in the lobby when we got there. It was like, "Oh wow." And you kind of feel that. And I think those initial instinctual things, you know, they play out throughout the entire trip. They happen right there in those moments. So I was
Yes.
really relieved.
I want to interject really quick because for my novice travelers, that was a huge travel tip that she just dropped right there. The hotel. People try to skimp on the hotel. They think, oh, we're not even going to sleep. I'm going to be out. Let me tell you, when you land somewhere and you're tired, you're
Mhm.
exhausted, you don't know your left from right, up from down, after you've got up early in the morning to catch, some sunrise tour, you're out all day, you want to
Yeah.
be somewhere comfortable. Okay. And some people just really skip on that. They try to either go somewhere budget or
Mm-mm.
they go somewhere that's not in a great location. You guys, that hotel is important. But I do want to get on to the dinner. The dinner was, I thought it was just such a gorgeous venue. Of course, I picked it, but whatever. I thought it was such a gorgeous
It
venue.
was.
And then after
It
that,
was.
we did a nightlife tour because I really wanted you guys to kind of quickly get acclimated to
Yes.
Bangkok and just what that
Yes.
was like and feel comfortable to just navigate that on your own. So can you just tell me a little bit about that experience? And then uh, I want to move on to some other highlights from the trip.
Well, first of all, I love city life. You know, I'm a city girl. So when I want to get my bearings straight as to where I am and where I'm going to go, even if you're not going to know everything at once, but once you get comfortable and acclimated with, okay, this is their train system, this is how this works, this is where this is. You're not going to come out knowing the town, but having that initial um feel for where you are. This is how I
Mhm,
pay to get on the train. This is where I want to
mhm,
get off, and these are the directions I'm going. It is so much fun. But that was probably, I like getting acclimated. In addition to feeling like, okay, I'm comfortable in my surroundings when I go to bed at night and I get some rest, having a sense of what that city is like, because you also are getting, um, you know, the vibe of the city. Every city has its own
mhm.
kind of energy and its own kind of vibe. And so getting on and off that train, and of course,
Yeah,
we're gonna have to stop and do a little bit of shopping and interacting and things like
yeah,
that, and seeing the street vendors and the street food. I love that kind of stuff. So it worked out perfect for me. Just kind of getting my bearings straight
perfect.
always worked for me when I get into a city. Always.
What were you thinking when I put you guys on the back of the mopeds?
See, that's where I started getting worried. But it was the most fun ever. It was so much fun. I mean, you gotta have, again, that's where your sense of adventure has to come into play. You have to kind of
Yeah.
go, let's do it. Let's roll. I was like, we are in these streets. And I had such a good time. I couldn't get my camera out to get pictures fast enough, but someone else got the pictures and I
I
had
have a
so much
couple
fun.
for
And
you.
we also, oh, please, please send them. Oh my God. But it was the most fun because that's how they travel. You're learning to travel the way the locals travel. And
Yeah,
that was one of the things when I first got there. I was like, oh, these people are all on these bikes for real. Like they are on the back of this, just
yeah,
this is this is how they do. And again, it goes to,
that's what they do, yeah.
when you're where you're at, you want to be with what they're doing, because you don't want to just be some stranger just wandering about. You're there to be a part of the culture and to see and hear it and be a part of it.
Mhm.
I personally enjoyed it. And but I think sometimes you have to have a little fearless
Love that.
streak, but that's how they roll. So that's what we do. I was scared at first
I
though.
love that, and I love
I
that
was
you
scared.
embraced it. I think a couple people were nervous, but afterwards, everyone was just, like, on this high, and I felt it. I felt it, and it was just up from there. The rest
It
of the night, it was
was.
just up from there.
It was no coming
Okay,
down.
so thinking back on the entire trip, what was your highlight? What was your
Mhm.
personal highlight?
Um, my highlight was Phuket. I loved when we went to Phuket. Now, Bangkok, what I loved was the food. I love the street food. I enjoyed, the energy in that city, and I just enjoyed the
Mhm.
vibe there. But if you
Yeah.
like city like that, you're gonna love the energy and the vibe. And the people were actually really nice. Even for it to be a crowded city and to have a lot going on, it was very easy to move about, and you made it so very easy for us to actually get out. We were centrally located in a place where we could get out and see things. So I actually have two, but
Mhm.
probably my biggest highlight is actually when we went to the island of Phuket, and
Okay.
going there, and
What's your second one?
um, and my second one was me and my group. We went on this adventure. I don't know how we ended up doing it. First of all, the temples were beautiful as well. Oh God, I got so many. You can't make me pick one, Chloe. Oh my God, don't make me pick just
Highlights a
one.
little.
Okay, how about my
But
highlights?
are you about
Okay,
to tell
my highlights.
about a free day adventure? This is something you got the group stepped out and they did something on their own, right? Okay, I just wanna set the scene there.
Yes,
Okay, go ahead.
we s- we stepped out and we did
What
something
did
on
y'all
our
get
own, and
into?
I really love to, girl. I don't think I'm supposed to say all of this stuff. I might need to make some calls and see if it's all
No,
right.
please,
No,
please.
no, no. So we decide to take this day trip, and we go to the boat market. Am I saying that right? And where the
Like a
market is
floating
basically
market?
on the floating market, and
Yeah.
the market is on
Yep.
the river, and you get on the boats, and you actually go to, and it's so much fun, and you get on your boat and you shop
Yeah.
along this floating market. And so we decide to go. We just get in a cab. We find a cab. He points to something that we want to go to, and we're like, "Yeah, that's where we want to go." Of course, none of us speak the language, but he understood enough, and we get on
Mhm.
this adventure. And we thought it was going to be closer than it really was, but it was a ways, and we
Mhm.
were in that car just laughing. We had the most fun just being in the presence of people who I had never met before this trip. And it was something
Yeah.
about the energy that we had there along that ride. And it got along. We were like, are we going in the right way, or what are we doing? But when we got there, and we got on that boat, we had so much fun. And we just enjoyed each
Mhm.
other's company, just talking and just having that kind of rapport that it I think it's supposed to feel. I'm not sure how it felt very comfortable. It felt very comfortable,
Mhm.
and we were just out and about in the streets, and how can I say out and about in the streets on this boat. And I can tell you one other thing too, is when we're out and you're out with a bunch of people and
Mhm.
you see another group that looks about the same, and we saw another a group of women, Black women specifically, and we just like, "Oh my God," and we just
Okay.
couldn't help but wave and meet these people and say hi. It was
Yeah.
so much fun. And then and on top of it was a long day. We did so much that day actually. We had so much we did. We
Yeah.
actually went to the temples that day. Oh man, it
Mhm.
was so something about. I'm going into so many things now. I'm sorry, but also on the
It's
same
okay.
day, something about going to those temples, something about going into those temples that I can't put my finger on it. It's like it, I don't want to call it spiritual. It may it was. It was just something very peaceful about being in those temples as
Mhm.
well, and being there. It's just I can't put my finger on it, but it was something very for me personally. I can't speak for everyone there, but that was also another moment that I just felt like I'm meant to be here in this moment on this trip. I'm meant to be here with
It's
these people at this time on this trip.
yeah.
And then, of course, there was
Mhm.
the Phuket adventure. I have to. I another one. And you were in the car. I remember
What y'all
we
do in
were
Phuket?
we landed we were in the car, and I love elephants. And I just do. It's one of the, I
Oh,
guess when they say it's your
yes.
spirit
Please
animal.
continue. I know the story.
You remember? And it's like my spirit animal, and I don't know what it is about them. I just think they're just beautiful, majestic animals. And we're driving
Yeah.
in the car on our way to the hotel after we landed, and one of our travel mates said, "Hey, I'm gonna go see the elephants." And I'm like, we're gonna go do that?" And it was like,
Yeah,
"Yes,
I'm
we're
gonna see
gonna
the
go do
elephants
it.
too, yeah.
I'm gonna go see it." And I call this almost like a spiritual experience, and it's not for everybody, but we were out there swimming with elephants. And
Yeah.
if when I tell people that, they're like, "What? You did what?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, we was out in the mud, we was in the water, we was with those elephants." And no
Y'all
one
got
would have
down.
thought that I would do something like that. We got down and just
Yeah.
absolutely enjoyed it. And who would have thought that that would be
Mhm.
something that I would have an opportunity to do? And I didn't think about
Yeah.
doing that when I got there. It wasn't on my itinerary to do. And we just did it. Oh my god, I know I'm missing some
Yeah.
stuff. I think that I did everything. We did
It's
so much
so
stuff. Oh my
Yes, it's
god.
so amazing the elephants, just so I can, like, kind of help the listeners imagine it,
Yeah.
because, I mean, you can imagine the size of
Mm,
an elephant, right? They are huge.
mm,
They are huge, but
huge,
they are such
huge,
gentle creatures. They are so gentle, and,
beautiful.
when you do these elephant safaris or however, they call it, you're able to bathe them and feed them, according to their schedule. So they have tours during certain times of the day where you're able to
Yeah.
experience this according to the elephant schedules, and these are to be elephant sanctuaries, not to be
Yes.
confused with the places that abuse the animals. These are elephants that
No.
maybe have been rescued from a circus or something like that, so they're not quite fit to go back out into nature yet. And so this is where they come, and people kind of, this is where they seek refuge. But
They
to
say
be able
refuge.
to have that type of an interaction with just such a majestic creature. So I definitely understand just
I
how
love that.
transformative that day may have been for you guys.
It is.
And I wanted to
That
ask about
eh,
the group interactions, but you did touch on that you guys had a lot of like solo adventures, side adventures. It's hard to put every
yeah,
single thing into the itinerary,
I
but we
know.
do leave
It is.
downtime in case you want to rest or in case you want to see stuff on your own. In this particular group, you guys used every available free second
Every second.
to do things. And I
Every second.
love that.
Every second.
I absolutely love
I love
that.
that. And I didn't forget our
So,
cooking lesson either.
yeah.
Our cooking
Oh,
lesson
with the market
the day
tour.
at the
Yeah, that
market.
was, yeah.
Am I just going into so everything was my favorite. Everything. I can't pick one.
All of it.
I can't pick one. I enjoyed the cooking and the market which you planned for us. Was the day out with the going. We actually went through the market, eating that fruit that I wouldn't have normally have eaten, and then
Mhm.
actually going and cooking and preparing the food. And I made a pretty good dish. I'm very proud of that.
Yes. Cooking classes are always the best food that you will have in that country. Like you have got the secret sauce, the secret recipe. Cooking classes are always the best.
Girl,
So I want to kind of summarize because you explained that before the trip happened, you were kind of on this transformational journey as it was, right?
yeah,
And you got to a
yeah,
point where you said, I'm going to do this. Like I'm going and the first trip didn't work out, but the next trip everything aligned and you were able to go. You had these great
yes.
experiences. You really connected with the people that you were on the experience with. So after the trip, like what would you say, how did that trip play into this whole journey that you've been experiencing in your
Mm.
life? Was there a shift? Was there a shift in perspective, be it, with travel or a perspective just on life in general? You know, how did this trip impact you in that way?
It gave me a lot of affirmation in terms of where I had been going in this transformation, in this stage of my life already.
Mhm.
It really brought home the things that I had been wanting to do and thinking about doing, and opening myself to be available to gratitude and to um, receiving these experiences that I'm supposed to have, and transforming my life
Mhm.
and my wholeness as a person and in my spirit and in my soul. And so when I got back, it was just this, how do I say it? It was just this moment of such like, okay, so this was, I did the right thing. I felt solace in, okay, so I wasn't supposed to take the other trip. I definitely was supposed to go on this trip. Um,
Mhm.
thing was, and I always think that things align for a reason. I think things are, um, there's a certain synergy to how we live our lives, and things match up for a reason. And so when I got
Mhm.
back home, I was like, okay, it actually gave me a lot of peace when I got home. I felt very grounded when I got home. It was like I had been trying to do all of these other things, trying to make things happen. I was always scheduling my life and planning everything the way it was supposed to be. It gave me a different sense of ease, a different level of gratitude, and
Mhm.
continue to elevate my sense of appreciation for the spirits that you're supposed to come in contact with while you're here,
Mhm.
and your sense of purpose while you're here. And so, I mean, I've stayed in touch with those ladies, and
Yeah.
yeah, we did. I got to meet up with one of my travel mates and met her up in Vegas for her birthday. And
Oh, I
we had,
love
we don't get
that.
to oh, we had such a good time. We actually planned it out, and actually we were in the car. I think we were in one of our rides back to the hotel, and we were like, "Are you coming out for your birthday?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, just call me and let me know what you're gonna do."
Ah. Okay,
And
send me pictures.
I will definitely send you the pictures. And we just
Yeah.
had such a nice time in those relationships, and they don't have to be all day, every day, and things like that.
Yeah.
But those people have a place and purpose in some way or another that they're supposed to be there. It just really has
Yeah.
continued to broaden my perspective and my horizon and confirmation and affirmation for this journey that I've been on for these last 3 or 4 years now, post retirement.
Mm.
So it feels really good. And of course, I met you, and then look at us. Come on,
Thank you.
come
Aw.
on. You reached
Well, I
out to me, and I'm
love
like,
that.
yeah,
I
of
love hearing
course,
that,
of
Alicia.
course, I'm on here. Of course, absolutely. And I just want to say this too. I'm not just saying this to to placate you, but there's a lot to a person who I feel like there are always people who just have certain innate qualities, and some people are
Mhm.
just connectors, and they
Mm.
are always the people who somehow are able to bring people who wouldn't ordinarily see or meet each other and kind of and bring them together. And I think
Yeah.
you're definitely a connector spirit. You just have
Aw.
that, you know what I mean? And the patience, because I'm gonna tell you what, I had a good time, but if I had to be in your role, people would run me low. They would run me low. I couldn't take it. But I'm
It's
not
a
playing.
skill.
It's a skill set, and it's something very warm to your spirit. So being able to,
Oh, that's funny.
have your travel agency and pull these things together and these people together and have these experiences speaks a lot to you. And I think that drew me
Mhm.
there initially, and everything else just flowed out from that. So I want to just extend my appreciation and
Awesome.
love to you as well. So
Thank you.
appreciate it. You do a
So
great
I
job.
do want to wrap it up here and just I want to ask, do you have any like specific practical tips for
Mm.
first time travelers? What would you tell them?
Eh,
What comes
First
to
time
mind?
travelers, well, I guess it depends on if you're gonna do a solo trip. I definitely recommend finding a good group to go with, and to do that. If you're scared to travel alone or solo, and you don't know how to put all these things together, because travel, yeah, you can click everything on the computer now, buying a ticket and all that stuff. But if you have someone who specializes in this and you trust them, go with that and do that, and then have those downtimes in between to be able to venture out and do that. I really do, and I really mean that. I mean, I've had some experience with traveling, but I'm at a place now in my life where I don't have to do a whole lot of planning. Um, if myself, to some place
Mhm.
that I haven't been before, I'm
Mhm.
probably going to do something like that. That's it.
Awesome.
Practical. If you're going
It's
solo,
just find a group.
find find a good group to go with, and also especially if you're traveling outside the country, buy the medical insurance. It's worth it.
Do you have specific tips on when it comes to that? I have my own recommendations, which I'm happy to share, but do you have any
Honestly, this was the first
specific?
time I this is the first time I've used, and I should have been doing this all along. And I think back now, and I'm like, risks have I been taking out here, out in these streets
With my
like
body
this,
just out in the
with
world.
my body, and I'm scared out here.
Yeah.
But nothing in particular. But you can find them, online, and find a really good one that's gonna do it for the duration of the trip, and get the
Yeah.
whole policy to cover you for the duration of the time. Because if you need to go to a hospital or something like that, or become ill. Fortunately, I haven't had that happen, but using very good discernment, as we should be
Mhm.
with our health and well-being,
But it gives you
definitely
a
get it.
peace of mind too, right? Just
Definitely did.
knowing that you have it,
Definitely
for
did.
sure.
Definitely did. Definitely did. I mean, I swam with elephants. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta cover
I got
yourself.
to I got to
Uh, I'm not gonna lie, you are more brave than me. I will touch them, I will pet them, I will bathe them, but
Hey,
that swimming part, Imma let y'all have that.
I had a good time. I had a good time. Yes,
I love that you did that though.
I did.
Okay, so your
Yeah.
tips are, if you're a um if you're a solo traveler to, find a group if that's something that you're nervous about and make sure that you get that
Yes.
travel experience. So let's say
Yes.
someone does find the group that works for them. How
Yes.
would you encourage them to make the most out of traveling with a group? What tips do you have around that? Just
Um,
something quick that they can. keep with
You know
them.
what? Find time for yourself within the group.
Mhm.
Be genuine to who you are,
Yeah.
and you will navigate to the type of people who are supposed to be in your sphere. And it's nothing wrong with, even with you're in a group, to actually do some things on your own by yourself. That's fine.
Mhm.
I think we had a rare connection with this
Yeah.
group where we just kind of had this real synergistic energy between us. But I've been on groups before, and I met one or two people and we did a couple things together, and I spent some time navigating things on my own, and that
Mhm.
was fine too, and people were respectful of that. Having that genuine sense of wanting to be to myself as well. You're going with the solo group, one, to give you, people know where you are. If you
Mhm.
want to make sure that people give you that sense of security. People are going to be looking for you if you don't show up, so that's number one.
Yeah.
And also, just being genuine to who you are, even within a group setting.
That's really good advice. That is actually really, really solid advice.
Yeah,
It's it is important to make sure that you're staying true to yourself and, don't feel bad if it's like, well, I don't want to go there for dinner or
you don't.
I don't really want to do
Right.
that activity, and just making sure that you're taking care of yourself. That's one thing that I always look out for in our travel ambassadors when I'm not the one traveling with the group. I've trained them to
Yeah,
look out, for that, to understand people's personality and kind of spot, if someone needs that extra time to
yeah,
encourage them to go ahead and take it so that they
absolutely.
don't feel like, oh, I'm letting the group down. You're not letting anybody down. Go,
No, you're fine.
ta-
It's still your trip.
take that
It's still
time.
your trip.
Yeah, it's your trip. You're right. You're
Still
absolutely
your
right.
trip. And one other
Well,
thing I
thank
do
you.
want to say this.
Go ahead.
I have to say this
Yeah,
too, because I think people
go
forget
ahead.
this, and this is just for the traveler. When people, like, you have your travel ambassadors and people like you who are touring, don't forget that they're actually working. So when you don't see them, it's okay.
No, just kidding.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah,
They are
yeah.
working. So that's it.
Yeah. Well, and the point that I was making when I was saying, yes, we are working. I think too, a lot of times, people are like, oh, Chloe, either they think that I am just a part of the group, which is good. That means I'm doing my
Yeah,
job.
you are.
I'm incognito, or
Definitely.
it's like, oh, relax, have a bunch of drinks or something with us. No, guys, I'm keeping an eye on you. I'm limiting myself. Y'all are
That
good,
part.
So it
That
is
part.
something that can be easily forgotten, but hey, we know how to work
Yeah,
around it.
you do. It's easy. I can see that happening with you a lot.
Do you have any final thoughts to share? Anything that you want to mention before we say goodbye here?
You know what? First of all, I hate to say goodbye because this has been so much fun. Um,
Yeah.
it's been a lot of fun. Um, you know what? Just do it. Don't be afraid to go out and have that adventure. Um, Make the time for yourself. Give yourself the time and the grace and the ease. And there's something very different about how you become self-aware in a very different way when you
Mhm,
are in a travel place, and when you're someplace that you haven't been, or you're revisiting a place that you actually just love to go
mhm.
outside of your everyday. So don't be afraid to do it, and call Chloe.
Ah, okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it.
Oh, well, this has been so great sharing this time and this space with you. Thank you so much for being my first episode.
I'm so excited for you.
More to come. Thank you so much, Alicia.